So when we talk about economic growth is something that is, for instance, you have many arguments against it, but you have, of course, arguments for growth. As we said, economic growth, as definition, is increase in output. How do we measure output? So we measure it by GDP. Yeah, and you all know what is GDP. So we have three definitions, basically. One is that it is sum of all finished products that are sold on the market. This is one. The other is sum of all incomes. Income of it's the same thing. Income of labor, so salaries, income of capital, profits, and all other incomes. And third one is the same thing. It is the sum of all value added. Are you familiar with this? So it should be. Should I go into more detail about those three? Those are three perspectives on one same thing. So three different angles. One from consumption, one from the production, which is value added, one from income perspective. Do need a little bit more about it. This is important because we have to. Why do I talk about this? We will go a little bit more. We will scratch the surface, because the surface is that economic growth is just that, more piling up products, more and more products and services, which when you think about it, on the surface, sometimes it sounds like it does not make sense. Piling up products and services, piling up. So sometimes, and this is big argument from these guys from green movements, environment protection, and if you look at it in this way, it sounds meaningless. Why do we need, more 5 jackets, 10 jackets, 50 jackets, 55 jackets, or 60, etc. And this is one trap for those that do not go deeper into what economic growth really is. The other definition, sum of all income. So there are a lot of studies that show that after some level of income, increase in income becomes irrelevant for after one level. If you increase, I don't know what it is at the moment, I don't know, let's say €1 million per year or something like that. After that, €2 million per year does not make any difference in living, in quality of life. So, in that sense, if you increase our incomes, this is another trap that is set for those who don't know. There are a lot of research that they say that exactly this. After some level, you don't get any kind of improvement of quality of life. And the third one, which is, in my opinion, most important, is sum of all value added. So value added to things. The main issue here is what value is really. What do you think? What do you remember from principles of economics, if you had that subject, or etc. Something like that? how do we create value? What is value? Did anyone have? Yeah, Ferry.
I think I can only mention business perspective, but for example, if I buy something, I'm a business, I buy something from another business, I do something with it, or produce something, or just sell a service based on that something I just bought, and the difference between the two prices for which I bought it and sold it is the value added for my part. So, yeah.
Technically, yes, that's right. But why do I have this phone? Why did I bought it?
It's useful for you.
It's useful for me. But if it is broken, is it useful?
No.
When you take, for instance, Ferrari, and you drive it, it's of huge value, I don't know. And you crash it, how much is worth? Nothing. So it's the same matter. Same matter, same atoms, same molecules. When you drive it, it's worth something. If you crash it, and you stay alive, of course, everything's well. If you crash it, that pile of metal or plastics is not worth anything. This is something that is important to probably in some, I don't know if you had a history of economic thought in some of your. So basically, historically looking, we had huge problem from Adam Smith up to Karl Marx. Let's just go into that briefly. Just Adam Smith and classical economics, they claim that value is created by labor. So if you calculate it, it's called objective theory of value, of labor or labor theory of value. And basically, it says that that this table is worth the money that the price is based on the level of work integrated into this table. And again, it makes sense. A lot of things make sense. And I'm talking about, but if you go deeper, they start losing that sense. This is the case with labor theory of value. What is it fell because of famous diamond water paradox. Because diamond, when you dig it out, just take it from the ground, the value of diamond is huge, and there is no work in it. Just a little bit of work. It's more work than a car, and you need hours of work for cars. This is marginal revolution. I will finish. Was the consequence of this labor theory of value? That Marx took it and went with it to the extreme. He said his basic assumption is if labor is the main source of creation of value, other that are not labor are exploiting the labor. And again, it makes sense if you think about it in that way. Marginal revolution, which was one of the biggest revolutions in economics, created like Monty Python, something completely different. View that value is created subjectively in our minds. Value does not exist except in our minds. It is called subjective theory of value. So, common example is when you are in a desert and you are thirsty you didn't drink water for 3 days, and someone offers you a bottle of water. How much are you going to pay it? You are dying. Everything. Sorry?
I just said a lot.
It's plus infinity. It's plus infinity. You will, you will give everything you. So the price at that moment of that bottle, that is usually €1 or something like that, it's plus infinity. You value it in this way, and it's logical. Second bottle, you are not dying at that moment, so it's worth less. We call this decreasing marginal utility. So decreasing marginal utility, price of that water at some time when you had enough water, the next one is 0. So it goes from plus infinity to 0. The price, only based on our perception of that value. So let's go back to economic growth. Why did I tell you this? Because economic growth depends on our perception of value. So economic growth is not just piling up products and services. It's creation of products and services that we perceive as valuable. At one time it could be bread and milk, but at one time it could be book by, I don't know, Shakespeare or Dostoevsky or any great author. So it could be anything, not just basic necessities. So when we think about economic growth, it is growth of pieces of bread or liters of milk, but it's also growth of things that are our needs, that are not just material. Let's look at one example. You take one handful of sand, silicon sand, which is, you can find it on beaches anywhere, and it's worth almost nothing. You take it and 100 grams of sand, almost zero. Price is almost zero. You give it to someone who makes glasses. He melts it, and with this pipe or something they create glass, and for you to be able to drink. It has purpose now, and the glass is, I don't know, €1. Economic growth with the same matter. And you have also take this 100 grams of silicon sand again, or you crush the glass or something, and you are now not generation that using CD, but I am. But take it to make some kind of silicon processor in computer, which is worth, I don't know, $10,000 or euros. From 0 to €1 or dollar to 10,000 with the same matter. This is the economic growth that we economists really talk about. Not the piling up more. This is if you remember, why do sometimes it could sound stupid that I talk about these completely basic things. But when we define economics, we define it as a science that finds best allocation for limited resources, best possible allocation. This is best possible allocation. It's not best allocation if we use all sand in the world and make out of them only glasses. This is something that it could count into economic growth, but that's not what economic growth really is. This is this path and what is main ingredient here? 100 grams of sand is input. I agree. But in this change from one handful of sand to processor,
maybe skilled labor.
some things between our ears, that the content that we have between our ears. This is the most important issue, because first someone has to know how to make glass, and on the supply side, on the demand side, someone has to have need for the glass, or for processor. let's see what is really what economic growth really is. Okay. Did anyone have the opportunity to see this Gapminder tool? Let's start 220 years ago. It's not too long ago. It looks, but it's the area where when our great grandfathers lived. So it's not too far generationally speaking. And this is the world in on here you have GDP per capita or income per capita, average per person, and this is life expectancy. Let's deep dive into the life at that time. The most developed country at that time was Netherlands. Look at this. Just a second. Never mind. It's about $4,000 per capita. And life expectancy is about 40 years. 40 years. So the most developed country. Let's look at some. Let's look at. Tell me one country to see. Austria. Okay. Oh, sorry. Never mind. Let's take. I cannot find it now. It's here it is. So it's about $2,000 and about 35 years. Can you imagine what this means really? These data, what do they mean? First, it means for us here, first that I would not be with my 48 years of age, I would not be in front of you now. I would be in somewhere with flowers and that I would finish my career. I would not be here in front of you. 35 years of age, life expectancy. The other thing, at that time, 220 years ago, infant mortality was per 1,000 kids, newborn kids, to 3 years, 500 died. So, for us, first it means that I would not be here. The second thing is that either you or person next to you would not be alive. You or person next to you. So imagine, I'm not here and every other person here is not here. We would die. Having these, and it's Austria, not Bangladesh or Ethiopia. So imagine how difficult, and if you are alive, those that are alive, because of it's $2,000 per capita, which means that with low productivity of agriculture at that time, this was probably on the border of poverty, which means that those that would be here would be hungry. So half of us, and including me, are not here because of illness, because of difficult conditions of life, and others that are alive are hungry or sometimes ill. So I'm not saying that all are hungry, but most of the population was. Only until last 50 years, food became something that it is not a problem for humankind. When you take whole history of humankind, 200,000 years ago till now, only the last 50 years are not such, food is not such a big problem. It is, but it's not. It is not the main issue for existence. All other history of humankind, food was one of the main problems. So this is the beginning point. So miserable conditions. Let's start with Industrial Revolution started approximately at that time. So we can see now, just a second, sorry. We will, okay, let's see all countries. Let me just explain. This is the size of the bubble is size of population. Yellow ones are Europe, green ones are America, yes, that's right. Red one Asia, and blue one Africa. And Australia is something, I don't know what color.
It's also red, I think.
Yeah, probably. Okay, let's see how we progressed during these 200 or so years. So you can see that, for instance, it's mid-19th century, United States and United Kingdom. So this is beginning of British Empire. Up to First World War, British Empire was in the role of US today. But you can see United States are also coming to the lead. Look at here, most of the world is still at Middle Ages. This is the situation of Middle Ages. And you can see progress. We will now go using this speed. I want you just look at now in the First World War how beautifully data show things that happen. Sometimes we are, we do not look data. We usually, I don't, but people usually look at data as something boring. But when you see this kind of using data to show things, it's really interesting. Look at now First World War and shift, and after that Second World War. Look at how, did you see that? It was combined. Let me go back to this, and I will slow it down. So war did not start. It starts and you can see that people are dying. Did you see that? This is combined effect of World War I and huge pandemics, Spain flu, as they called it.
But only the life expectancy dropped, not the GDP by what?
GDP dropped a little bit, but not. Yeah, you're right. Because it was not. First World War was not in urban areas destroying infrastructure. It was, front war with. So it did not destroy economic capacity, but it destroyed people, which is much more important. So GDP basically maybe stayed a little bit lower or something like that, but huge casualties. About 70 million people died because of the war, and they say about 70 million people also from Spanish flu. The same is, they say, it's estimated, it is the same. Okay, this was the First World War. Now we will increase a little bit. And one thing also, it was mostly in Europe. So you can see that all that yellow dots were going up and down. So both wars, as they were world wars, and effects were, but most of the effects were in Europe. Unfortunately, again, the war started in Europe, and this is really frustrating and annoying. Okay, so this is now period before the Second World War. So I'll just go a little bit back now. So US and UK are now before the war. Let's see where. Look at Germany caught up with at the top. China and India are here at the bottom. So you will see afterwards amazing way that how those countries managed to escape this position. So US, after the Second World War, US became the most important, most developed and leading economy. So these are now 50s. Look at now. This is cultural revolution in China. Did you see how China went down? Hop. It goes here. It's Mao Zedong cultural revolution when millions of people died. So you can see that. You can see that in data. But China is now here really, and you can see, like when you look at people run, someone runs from behind and goes around everybody. So what does this, now we will see it to the end. What you can see here, life expectancy is increasing and income is increasing. What this means that people get better food, more available food, better health protection, better living conditions, better. Look at now China. China is going to the upper part of the. This was the crisis, pandemic crisis. Did you see little pandemic crisis? But look at the difference between. Did you see combined effect of First World War and Spanish flu and pandemic? Which means that we answered pandemics much better than it was done previously in history. There were. This is now just a little bit side issue. But never mind. Thing here is from the situation where we had dying of children, illness, lack of food, and everything, really, really horrible conditions for life. We have today life, you can see about 70 to 80 years, most of the world life expectancy is there. Incomes are much higher, which means that, as I said, better food, better availability of food, better availability of clean water, better availability of medical treatment. Medical treatment itself are improved. You name it. Many other things that are improving our life. What is really improving our life? What improved our life here? Products and services. Products and services. You can take any of the products These things are products. This is product. Computer is product. Everything which enables us to increase our capabilities. Sorry?
Quality of life.
Quality of life. But that's right. So this was made by economic growth. This is the purpose of economic growth. Not piling up products and services. Not increasing incomes of people so they become, I don't know, they start to use gold for their restrooms or something like that, which is sometimes the case.
I have a question. So we looked at economic growth from the historical perspective, and now the question have arisen that we have achieved like life expectancy from like 70 years almost up to 90, and it's all due to the economic growth, but can't degrowth people like on the side of degrowth argue that we have achieved a great success, but now we should stop with the growth models because it's like ruining the environment and such. So like economic growth was really useful for like a few decades, not decades, but hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And now we can turn to different models so we can foster the well-being of the planet as well.
This is good argument. But if you take just material growth as that growth is only material and extracting resources from the planet. So main argument of, and what other people think, before I start elaborating on this, do you think that we should stop growth because of planet?
No. We should start caring more about the resources, like being like ecological countries. Like if we use some resources, we should.
We should
more of that.
be more careful with our resources.
Yeah.
What other people think?
Maybe somehow modify the ways to get those minerals and
Maybe it's even better because if we could have like this growth based on like environment for a couple of decades, then we could have in future some growth which is based on some green and with new technologies.
Of course. Did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, also yeah. So I didn't really want to advocate against growth, but
You can.
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
allowed
sure.
to. I mean, it's.
sure.
I'm not from North Korea. I'm not going to arrest you or something like that.
Yeah. What do I want to mention? Oh yeah. So in my reading, like growth is like. So the discounting of the future is really in my reading is really dependent on the expected growth in the future, and what we can see with these black swan events happening in the past years, like COVID and the war, and like the impact on the budget of the government. I don't have empirical data, but it feels like this is something that is not we cannot keep up with this. So this kind of future in a way that, like on the belief that we will grow enough so we can pay
That's
that money that we have borrowed from the future, basically.
yeah. Generally, that is something borrowed from the future, not from someone else, but from our future. But listen, I agree that that economic growth made substantial change on the environment, which I mean, no one can deny that. But if we consider economic growth as something that is exploiting nature more and more, that more economic growth means more exploitation of nature, then I would say, guys, let's be honest, stop it. But it's not.
Mhm.
Economic growth is in huge part related to physical matter, physical resources. But that's not the most important thing about economic growth. So, for instance, what do we, in most of part of this 200 years, what did we do? We basically went from satisfying our basic needs. First, it was food. And it makes sense, it is connected with nature. You have limited amount of arable land or something like that. You have limited resources for, I don't know, any kind of physical resources on the planet are limited. That's the. But thing is that our needs are not just material needs. We do not. Okay, when we are hungry, we want product that satisfies our hunger. If we are thirsty, we drink something, buy something to drink. But most of the economic growth in the last 30 or 40 or 50 years is not in these areas of economic activity. It's somewhere else. So if I have enough of food, which you can see that I had more than I should have less. So I'm joking. But if you see that some society has enough of these kind of needs that are basic needs, most of the economy, knowledge economy, is doing something else, creating products and services. Look, all things in your phone itself, and all apps in it are products or services. If you download it, it's a product. If you use it from the cloud, it's service. So these are things, same things as bread and milk. They are created. Someone created it and sold it, or not sold it, give it for free and takes and uses advertisements for that to get incomes. Never mind. But these are all things. Books, for instance. We don't eat books. This is the kind of product that has always been in our economic activity. And we don't eat it, we don't drink it, we don't wear it, we don't do anything, but we satisfy. Why do we buy books? Because we satisfied something else when we have enough of all the things. There is a famous hierarchy of needs that's right, Abraham Maslow, which created those kinds. He was a very interesting psychologist. Unlike other psychologists, most of psychologists that went to research the pathological conditions of human condition, Maslow went to explore most realized and most accomplished persons in the world. So people who are really the best examples of human beings. So, and he came with this. I'm not saying that this is completely accurate, but it gives you the some kind of hierarchy or system that our needs, that we create our needs, or we have our needs, from basic, which is food, water. Second one are security, shelter, or something like that. But you go to third one is social connections. Fourth one is self-realization, and the fourth and fifth level of our needs is self-actualization. Did I pronounce it right? Yeah. So it means that these all are our needs. And economic growth is not satisfying only these. And we are much better at satisfying. Look at how at beginning of 20th century we had almost 80% of people, even in developed countries, as doing agriculture. 90% in some countries. Now you have about 3 to 5 in developed countries. You have 3 to 5% of people that are in agriculture, and they produce much more than these 90% produced because of increase of productivity. We'll talk about what productivity also is. Okay,